Hey there, friends. Welcome to the CFC Leadership Podcast, where we focus on everything campus ministry, college ministry, and young adult ministry related. Whether you're already working in one of these ministry areas, thinking about starting a ministry, or just have a burden for this age group, this podcast is meant just for you. I'm your host, Kyle Austin, and now it's time to join with us in today's conversation. I want to welcome you to today's episode of our podcast, and we want to look at creative ideas for outreach tables. And I've got a special guest with us, Kosta, and he's going to share some of these ideas of the tables that he's been doing on campus and kind of the response he's gotten. He works with us at CFC in the campus house, doing a phenomenal job, and I appreciate all that he does. Kosta, just real quick, share with us a little bit about where God has you as far as what you're pursuing as far as school, what your jobs are with CFC. Just introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hey, Kyle. Hey, everybody listening. Thanks for having me. So I'm Kosta Kappas. I work here at the campus house alongside Kyle Austin and his wife. And I'm thankful for this job that the Lord's really provided in letting me interact with college students and be here at an established place, the campus house, where we have property to sort of invest in the students who come on in and study, use it as a study center. And we also have a front lawn that faces an apartment complex and right next to the school where students are walking by constantly. And we've really brainstormed together how can we use this campus house as an outreach place. And thinking about the lawn that we have in the front yard, we've sort of combined outreach tables and the place we've been given to reach the students who are walking by daily. And through those outreach tables, the Lord's kind of given me opportunities to think creatively, to use what we've already done, to build a team of students who are willing to minister unto other students and provide topics for these tables. For example, one of the tables that we've had is the What's on Your Mind table, where it presents a question to passerbys of what's on your mind. And in that, we have 3 jars. And these jars can be any type of school of thought or directed group of thoughts. For example, we've used grief, guidance, and gratitude as the group of thoughts for our table, where we'll provide note cards and pens, and the students who are passing by, whether they decide to stop by at the table or not, to interact with the students working at the table, or even to stop by and not interact with anybody, they're able to write down things that they're grateful for, things that they're grieving in, things that they need guidance for, and to place those thoughts into the jars. It keeps it private, personal. And if they're willing, they can interact with the students or me or Kyle and Amanda leading the tables. Or if not, they can simply put their notes, their prayers, their thoughts into the jars and walk away. But these tables are all sort of guided at a central focus of how can we get past the barrier that these students have placed in our heart between them or God or them and others, and how can we reach them with the gospel, with the love of Jesus?
Yeah, and I think what I love about the outreach tables, we have done these since the very beginning of us doing campus ministry. And I think outside of the actual Bible study itself, or, sitting down with a student, answering questions, or, going through the Bible, outreach tables may be at the top of my list of favorite things to do. Like, I love them. When it comes to creativity, that's not my strong point. And so I struggle with that aspect, but that's where Kosta has really shined. My wife, of course, she's creative as well. So between the two of them, they've come up with some phenomenal ideas. And so when we're talking about outreach tables, I know, Kosta, you mentioned, the campus house, and that's a piece of property that God has allowed us to have across the street from the student center. Students walk by all day long. It's open coffee shop style. So students are in and out, studying, doing Bible studies, discipleship. Where are you doing these tables as far as locations, and as far as like a week glance during a week, how often are you doing them? What are your time frames and so forth? And then we'll kind of jump into some more ideas. But where are you doing them? What's the time frames that you're doing them?
Yeah, so these tables, we just had, of course, I've learned a lot from you, from your years of testing them. But from what I've seen this semester, I mentioned a table team, a group of students. These are students that I've noticed through the Bible study and through coming here at the campus house quite often, their desire to serve, their desire to see other students saved, to see the message of the gospel taken out in whatever way that is. So I've actually asked these students that I've seen, that I've prayed about over for the Lord to lead me to if they'd like to be a part of a table team. Now, they help me set up the tables, run the tables, maybe ideas with the tables, and they'll kind of go with me to each of these locations whenever we have the table set up. So what we've kind of gotten into a rhythm, and this can change depending on the campus you're on or the hours that you're available for. But what we've found is the best for our table team and reaching the majority of the students on campus are Mondays and Wednesdays. Now, I mentioned the campus house, and we use the campus house property for our Monday tables, where we'll do more creative testing tables and these personal tables where we can be here kind of constantly, loving on the students and watching over the table, making sure it's doing well. But our Wednesday tables are the on-campus tables, where from 11:30 to 2 o'clock, we'll have our students with different 30-minute hour intervals going on campus running these tables. And these hour slots kind of hit the majority of the students going from and to class. And on campus is always a great way to reach new students, freshmen, upperclassmen who haven't found a Bible study, maybe aren't even looking for a Bible study, but they see your table as interesting and they see the way that you care on them. So they're more apt to test out the Bible study, to come and just to see if it's something that they'd be willing to join.
Yeah. So these outreach tables are kind of a stepping stone, if you will, into either the Bible study or to the campus house or maybe to the local church that's supporting, one of the ministries. So we're doing Monday and Wednesdays. We're doing one, of course, on the campus house. Maybe, there may be groups that don't have something like the campus house, but we do these on campus. And I think everything we do at the campus house, we can do on campus. We're typically, when we're doing these tables, we can do them inside the student center. We can do them outside. We'll kind of move locations. What we do typically try to do is try to do a table before our meeting, our Bible study meeting. So we meet on Wednesday night. So we always try to do our outreach tables if we can, Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday, because we can say, especially Wednesday, hey, Bible study's a night, when we're talking to people. It gives them a quick, way to jump in.
Thursday, you might have to say, okay, come see us in 6 days.
Yeah, and so you may lose some traction. So that's why we do the days preceding. So if you meet on Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday may be your key day. I do know right now the way we're doing is Monday and Wednesday, we're hitting the same class change. But if you can do a Monday, Tuesday, or a Wednesday, Thursday, depending on when you're meeting, you will get different students based on the different classes and class changes. With these outreach tables, I guess I love them because the ideas are unlimited. It's a great way to have students come up to you. Let me back up just for a little bit. When we do evangelism, typically we're thinking, go out into all the world and preach the gospel. We're going to go up and approach people. And I think that's biblical and we should do it. I think what we found with the outreach tables is the other direction, meaning they're coming up to us. Whatever the idea is, whether it's coffee, hot chocolate, this, focus on or what's on your mind table, is bringing them up to you. So now they've given you permission to speak to them. It breaks down the walls. It makes anything awkward kind of go away. And that's what I love about the tables. So I know you said you did the What's on Your Mind table. I know there was great response from that. I know one of them that you did, I feel like you got excellent response from, was one you titled Envelopes of Encouragement. You want to share with our listeners what that table is all about and and also as you're sharing that, also kind of, if you can, best you can, give them a mental picture of what the setup looked like, the table. Did you have a tent, signs, or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, so something we always try to do with these tables is how can we relate it back to the gospel, back to the Lord? How can we reach these students with just the message of the Bible, what the Bible has to offer? And ways that we found that are having the central purpose of the table being either prayer or verse-based. That's where the creativity comes in, is how do you keep these two same purposes, but utilize them in different ways? And so that's where the envelopes of encouragement comes in, is it's verse-based. So what we've done is we've taken, how can we give these students scripture without shoving it in their face and just telling them what the Bible has to say, but letting them interact a little bit with it. So I had a student with a very creative mind to create a poster board. She drew the envelopes of encouragement title on the top of the poster board, and we had 9 different envelopes taped to the poster board, labeled 1 through 9. And in these envelopes were 9 different verses that I and another student had kind of gathered to encourage and to reach out to students, either encouraging them when they need peace, encouraging them when they have anger issues, or when they don't know where to go, or maybe just the salvific verses where Jesus has come to the world and he saves us. And not only did we write these verses on these pieces of paper in the envelopes, but we also wrote a sentence or two sentences of application to guide these students in how they should view this verse so that it's not left up to interpretation or confusion, but we're also sort of teaching them and guiding them. This is what the Lord has to say to you, and this is how he wants you to apply it to your life. So what we did is we put all those verses and applications in the envelopes of the poster board, and we set it up on a trifold. We set it up next to a table with some snacks on the table, some tracts on the table, fill it up, make it look full. And we sat comfortably underneath the tent, and I had 2 to 3 students sitting or standing behind the table, kind of leading the passerbys of, hey, would you like to grab some encouragement? Or, hey, would you like to open an envelope? Or pick a number. What's your lucky number? And kind of guiding these students into some mystery of like, oh, I get to, have some fun, getting a verse, being encouraged too. No, everybody wants encouragement. Nobody will turn them down. And if they don't want the envelopes, if they don't want the papers, then they can grab a snack, grab a tract, or you can sort of just talk to them, or they'll recognize that you're there, willing to give encouragement. And that's one of the best parts of these tables, is that regardless of whether or not students stop at the tables, talk to you, get saved, whatever the range might be, at least they see you. And I had a student the other day while we were doing our table, he saw on our sign that's on our our tents have Collegians for Christ on all 4 sides. And he read the word and he said, what does collegian mean? And so we got to kind of communicate, oh, well, we're Collegians for Christ. We're college ministry looking to share Christ with all these students. And so we got to talk about that. And whatever you're doing at these tables, whatever creative topic you choose, whether it's envelopes of encouragement, the what's on your mind tables, the best part is that you're planting visual seeds for these students to show that you care and that you have something on.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing we've talked about over the years, is if you can somehow see the college campus through the lens of what can we give back to the campus community versus what can I come here and take. So often people want to come and take students to their church, get students to sign up for this, get students to buy this, whatever it is. And when we as a college or campus ministry can look through the lens of how can we give back, basically Jesus said, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbors yourself. And so how can we love on these students? And I think when you come with that lens and that focus of how can we give back, the reception's totally different. I get asked often, as far as evangelism, how to reach out to students. Doing these outreach tables, are students actually coming up to them? Or you have to run out there and grab them? Are they turning a side eye? And, there's certain students that will always kind of be skeptical because there's lots of tables, for fraternities and Greek life and businesses. And sometimes they get kind of promotioned out, if you will. And so you've got to be a little bit creative with it. And who doesn't want encouragement? When you said, stop by, you would like an envelope of encouragement, or, whatever the case is, what student doesn't? It's hard to turn that down. Yeah. And so I think as we can do purely promotional informational tables, and there's a time and place for that, where we're just passing out information. There's times when we do coffee and hot chocolate. We're just purely giving out coffee and hot chocolate. Yeah. And these tables, I think, have their time, their place, especially the coffee, hot chocolate. You're doing something, but you alluded to something, Kosta, that's very important. And you have your tent, your banner, whatever it is, it's visual that has your ministry name on it, so the students see it, and they see it. And they see it, and then faculty and staff see it, and then the chancellor sees it, and then, the coach of this team sees it, and they see you in a positive light doing something positive for the campus community. And I hate to use the word marketing because that's kind of, outside of the church scope, but in essence, you're marketing, yourself, you're marketing, ministry for Jesus. In essence, you're trying to reach people. That's what that is. And you're trying to, get his name or your name out there. With these tables, I know you've done some other ideas. I know we've done some exam gift bags before. Those are just letting, you can give out gift bags. You can let them come through and make gift bags. Those are always good, kind of taking what's going on the campus calendar and kind of adapting to it. I know we talked about just briefly, just a little bit ago, about seasonal tables. What are some ideas, with Thanksgiving, Christmas, exams coming up? What are some seasonal tables ideas that maybe people could do?
So these tables are very similar to I guess how a pastor would think about his message is what does the audience need from me? And it's like what you said, Kyle, about you're there to give with these outreach tables. That should be your focus, your drive is to give and to love others. And these seasonal tables, they can be, I guess, the student seasonal, whether that's there's an exam coming up or there's football game day, and you kind of want to, their minds are focused on these or worried about these or invested into these seasonal activities or these exams coming up. So you want to kind of minister unto them in that time. And it's very similar with, we recently had a seasonal holiday table. We have Halloween coming up, and we decided to do a Halloween targeted table. So we didn't have, scary, spooky.
You didn't have ghosts and goblins and costumes and stuff.
They weren't scared students in the corner. We weren't, I guess, taking the idea of Halloween and turning that or using that for us, but we were there. The students are focused on Halloween. So we thought about how can we decoratively, I guess, to go into their minds and minister to them in this time. So you hear often as you knock on the door, trick or treat. And we had a student give us the idea of a table titled No Tricks, Just Treats. And in that, we were able to go into the mind of the student, focus on Halloween, trick or treat, spooky and scary, and love on others. Whether this minister under the student in their views of Halloween or minister under the student in how decorative the table was with orange and black and candy, we put some gift bags with the stickers, No Tricks, Just Treats. Inside the gift bag, we had one of those encouragement verses with application. We had a draft. We had chips and candies. And we were just there just to give to students, to love on them, to show that, we're in the times, I guess, we're in the season, we're with y'all, we're not separated from y'all. And we had some hot chocolate to offer. And there's so many things you can give to these students. And it's always important to recognize what is on your audience's mind so I can best minister unto them.
Yeah, no, that's good. Capturing them where they're at and meeting their needs. I think there's a couple of things that I'm hearing as we kind of put all this together. One, I do want to mention, some people what are the responses to these type of tables? And I think if I'm not mistaken, the envelope, you had like 90 things taken out. So 90 students came by a table, minimum 90 students came by a table. That's a lot of students. Came up on their own accord. They received encouragement. They received a connection, eye contact. They received, invitation to Bible study, whatever the case is. And so, of course, every table is going to be a little bit different, but many of the tables you do get good response from. When we do hot chocolate and coffee, we'll give out 5 gallons, up to 10 gallons of hot coffee or chocolate. And that's a lot of cups of coffee, and while they're stirring creamer and sugar, you're talking to them, you're engaging them. But at one of the tables here recently, Kosta had the opportunity to engage a young man in conversation. And from the table, because he has a team there, he was able to step away from the table. He was able to sit down with this young man and find out he wasn't saved. And Costa had the opportunity there while the table was going on to lead this young man to the Lord. And so a couple of things I'm seeing with these tables. One, it's a great method of outreach. Two, you're doing basically our entire mission statement at one time. So we are reach, teach, connect, and impact. And so you are reaching students with the gospel. You're teaching students how to serve. You're teaching students how to share the gospel because, as he said, he has, his team. He's headed it up. That's the way we've done it for years. We've always had people sign up, and then we try to do table captains. So basically, you're reaching students, you're teaching them. You have connection opportunity. It's fellowship for you to sit down with your students, for me to be with students, Amanda to be with students. So you've got that time together with those students who are working the table. But then the impact side, you're giving them opportunities to serve. And so we're talking about table captains. So you are training people, students, and then you are training them to take your place, essentially, because you're in charge of the table, you're running it, but you're going to have 4, 5, 6 table captains that are going to run the table who are now in charge of training essentially some other students, with them at all times. And so these tables are phenomenal in the aspect of they fulfill our purpose fully. You're out on campus, you're meeting students, you're visual. And so like the response, let me ask you this, Costa, we've been doing them this semester. We did tables all last year. Our students coming to Bible study from the tables. Our students coming to church from the table. That's a big part of it. Church is important. And even that, I'm even talking about tables, get a clue type of event when the school kicks off. They have all those type of tables. So my question to you is, as we finish off, because this is a question I know our leaders would ask,
Yeah.
are students coming to Bible study? Are students coming to church? Are students like, what's the impact? What's the effect of these tables as a whole?
Yeah. My answers to you would be yes, yes, and yes.
I love it.
I mean, we've seen the Lord work in wonderful ways through these tables. And these tables are a great way to show the students on campus what is the face of Collegians for Christ, what is the face of this campus ministry, and what is their goal, how are they going to treat me. And for example, Get a Clue event, that's a place where all these different clubs are coming together and, in a sense, marketing what their club and getting people to sign up for their club to come. And when you have, whether or not you have hot chocolate, hot coffee, more creative outreach styles, getting verses out, prayer boxes, whatever it might be, remember that you're representing the mission statement of the campus ministry. You're reaching, you're teaching, you're connecting, and you're impacting. And those last two, connection and impact, you're taking a stranger and you're plugging them into the Bible study, and they're turning into a friend, or they're turning into a new believer, or they're turning into a believer who has now an opportunity to serve at their new school. And we've seen students come to the Bible study from this, plenty of students. We've seen many students who were unbelievers, and through the connection of the outreach tables, their lives were impacted through the gospel, and they got saved. And we've seen many students come to church, whether even some of these students, they just off Bible study, or some of them just want church. They want that church community on Sunday morning. And these outreach tables are not to be overlooked, because they take your weekly Wednesday night Bible study and they say, how can I approach and impact this college campus throughout the week? And how can I get students involved? And how can I show these students that I care about them?
Yeah. No, they're super impactful. And I love what you say. They don't need to be overlooked. I mean, I think outside of as far as our outreach plans, this is the top. Stays at the top always has, because it's just very effective. I mean, you may be saying, well, look, I don't have a Monday and Wednesday. That's no problem. There's not a pressure that you have to do them X amount of times. Maybe you can do them once a month. Maybe you can do them once every other week. Maybe you can do them once a week. I mean, obviously, the more you can do, the more, effect will come from it. But even if you can only do it once a semester, like, don't beat yourself up and think, well, I can't do it that way. I love what Kosta says. He says, just give it a try, and I, second that, because, sometimes we worry, well, if I tried this creative idea, maybe it'll be a flop. That's okay. Let it flop and don't do it again, because the next one may be a hit. And if it's a hit, then do it again, So I just encourage you, as you're listening and you're trying to get out on campus, whether you already have a campus ministry, utilize the tables, reserve the space, find out what you need to do. If you don't have a campus ministry and you're trying to get one started, you can utilize free speech area. There's places you can use on campus, depending on the campus, and we can help you with that. So I think what we're saying as we close out here, one, just give it a try. Try one of the ideas we've shared. Think of ideas. The beauty of it, the ideas are unlimited. But give it a try. And if you have any questions, we're here as Collegians for Christ to help you with your campus ministry journey. You can email us at connect@collegiansforchrist.org. We'd be happy to help you. Kosta, myself, will be happy to communicate with you and share with you some ideas, or you can pick our brain or whatever. I mean, that's what we're here for. But bottom line is, just give it a try. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If this podcast has been helpful to you, please share it with a friend or subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can connect with Collegians for Christ online for more information and resources at cfccampusministry.com.